Two Maple Leafs getting set to battle it out as Canada and Sweden kick off the Four Nations face-off. Let's break it all down on today's edition of the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Leafs podcast, a daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast hosted by myself, Mike DiStefano, and my co-host, Dave Morisuti. No games for the next couple of weeks for the Toronto Maple Leafs, so we're kind of going to turn into a little bit of a Locked On Four Nations show. We'll obviously have that Leaf spin with three Maple Leafs players in the tournament. We'll also talk more big picture stuff with Toronto as well. But today, it starts off, you got Canada versus Sweden, or as Dave and I are coining this, the Marner versus Nylander showdown. I'm excited for it, Dave. How about you?
Yeah, I can't wait for the two of them to drop the mitts, go at it.
Didn't know what Willie said a week ago? He's going to challenge them all to a little fight. Here's the thing, though. Like, Willie, when you watch Nylander play, when he's donning the crowns instead of the leaf, he plays a little different, right? Like, he's out there hitting dudes. He's playing defense. He's got a complete 200-foot game when he's playing in yellow. I don't know what it is. So it wouldn't shock me if he went and maybe not fought a guy, but like Marner goes in for a puck in the corner, Nylander goes in right after him and, you know, gives him a hard check to get the puck back. I could see that happening. I could really see it.
Oh, I could definitely see it happening. I could see Willie. I think some people are going to be surprised at what they'll see from Willie in this tournament. If you've never watched him play the World Championships, like out of all the Leafs, the three Leafs, he has played the most for his country.
Yeah. Through
this whole thing, right? You have to remember, Matthews in 2016 played for Team North America. Not too long ago that we had that as the only option for Austin Matthews to play international hockey as a NHL player.
Right. So it's going to be fun. I'm excited for it. And it all kicks off tonight. You've got Sweden versus Canada. I'm curious, though, like from a big picture perspective, I guess, Dave, when you look at this tournament and the Four Nations face-off, do you expect for the compete level to be super high? Like on a scale of, you know, dog days in January to Stanley Cup playoffs, where do you think the compete level is going to be throughout this tournament?
Ooh. I think it'll resemble a lot of what we saw in 2016 with the World Cup hockey. Like, to me, that was competitive. Maybe there weren't massive hits being thrown out, but there was an effort given. Especially, like, I remember I went to see Sweden versus Team North America live. It's probably one of the best hockey games I had ever seen because it had everything. So it was a competitive game between Sweden and Team North America. I remember, I think it was Johnny Gaudreau scored on a breakaway on Henrik Lundqvist in that game. Then you had the most ridiculous goal I had ever seen live in person with Nathan MacKinnon undressing Lundqvist in overtime. Like, to me, I know some people are wondering if, they'll give it their all. For some guys, they've been waiting for this opportunity to play in a tournament like this. Yes, it's not the Olympics, but it's the closest thing we've got to it right now.
Isn't that insane? Like, you bring up McKinnon was playing for Team North America. Like, that's how long ago this tournament was. He wasn't old enough to play for Team Canada. He was still on Team North America and McDavid and everyone else that was on that team. It's kind of crazy now. You fast forward and those are the big boys for Team Canada, right? Like McDavid, McKinnon, Sidney Crosby, Mitch Marner is obviously in the fold here. It's going to be a big one. And I mean, when you look at these two teams, Canada and Sweden, you start to match it up. You look at the whiteboard, lines 1 through 4, pairs 1 through 3. You look at the crease. I mean, Toronto clearly has far more firepower and star power in their lineup. And we could start to take a look at these lines if we want to. I don't know if you have if you want to pull them up quickly and we could take a peek at what the lineups look like, because there was an adjustment that was made overnight. And on day 2 of practice, keep in mind yesterday it was a big conversation. Crosby down the middle with McKinnon on the wing. Sounds like after one practice, they're going to kind of scrap that idea, flip those two around, and now you got McKinnon down the middle with Crosby on the wing, and they're shifting Mark Stone back over onto the right side, his natural right side. And that's going to be what we're looking at here for Team Canada moving forward tonight. I believe the rest of the lineup was pretty well unchanged. If you want to just quickly scroll around it.
Konechny did draw in for Sam Bennett. That was the only change.
Okay, so Konechny in for Bennett in the top line with McDavid, Marner, and Sam Reinhart still going to be the lineup. But what did you make of that move for Canada to make that quick little swap there?
Yeah, I was surprised. I don't think I've ever seen Sidney Crosby not play center.
No.
That's like maybe they found that having Stone playing on the left side, maybe that just wasn't a natural fit for him. I don't know, but it'll be interesting to see I think Crosby. I've got no worries about Crosby adjusting to that. I think you're going to see a situation where Crosby and McKinnon are going to bounce back and forth. I think with the center duties on that line, and maybe you know what, you could see a point where maybe it's McKinnon moves to the right and maybe it's Brad Marchand going to that line. Some people thought that was going to be the locked in Cole Harbor line, and Stone rained on that parade a little bit there. So that's another thing I think you could see happening. But yeah, I did find that to be quite surprising.
Yeah, and realistically, like they're both, well, here's two things. One's a lefty, one's a righty. So depending on where the faceoff is, we can see both guys filter in and out with the faceoff draw. But I wonder too, like look back on the injury that Sidney Crosby sustained last week.
Mm-hmm.
He's kind of clutching and holding his chest, right? When he got hurt, I don't know if it was his chest or wrist, holding something.
They were kind of going
shoulder,
elbow.
possibly. Like he was holding like his midsection of some kind. It takes a lot of torque to win back a draw in the NHL, especially a best-on-best tournament. You're going against Austin Matthews. You're going against Jack Eichel. You're going against, Elias Pettersson, Sebastian Aho and company. You got to make sure that you can win those draws. And maybe Crosby tried, really tried and realized, hey, maybe I'm just, I'm going to play, but let's take that precaution, take, the draw out of it, and let's just put McKinnon down the middle and I can go and do my thing on the wing. It's still going to be an incredible line, a shutdown line if I've ever seen one. Crosby, McKinnon, Mark Stone. It's going to be so much fun to watch those two go at it, though. I think that's probably what I'm most excited about. Like, the McDavid and Marner pairing. I mean, I've always dreamt about that. I think everyone in Toronto has dreamt about that being a pairing at some point. But let's be honest, this Cole Harbor duo of McKinnon and Crosby, they've kind of been linked together for the last 10 years, and it's really cool to finally see them playing alongside one another. I hope it lives up to the hype.
I do too. I mean, those guys skate so much together in the summer that they probably know each other's tendencies quite well. And I'll be very interested to see if they do, if there is a struggle. I remember when Sidney Crosby played in the 2010 Olympics, he was with Iginla and
Rick Nash. No, was he with Rick Nash?
I think it might have been Rick Nash, or it might have been maybe Bergeron. I can't remember exactly, but
Bergeron was down the middle. But anyway,
he had struggles with his line mates, right? Because usually you think Sidney Crosby, he can kind of figure it out, but it wasn't always the case like that. So, it might look good on paper, but until you actually see it in a game situation, it's gonna be tough to kind of gauge. But I do think that when you look at the two of them, they know each other. They've worked with each other in the summer. I think it should work quite well as a duo.
Yeah, totally should. I'm excited for it. Looks like Jordan Binnington will get the start for Team Canada in between the pipes for game number 1. I think that's
No, we lost you a little bit there.
All right. My bad. Okay.
Yes, you're back.
Binnington getting the start. I think that's the right call when you look at those three goaltenders. Yeah. I suppose the right call would have been to put Logan Thompson on the team and start him, but he obviously is not available to them. So they're going to go with Jordan Binnington. And I think that's the right decision there, Dave. I mean, you look at the three goalies that are there. He's the only one that's, really been battle tested. I guess Aiden Hill's won a championship as well, but I think that Jordan Binnington, he's an ice in his veins kind of guy. He's shown that he can live up to the hype of big games before. He's won a game 7, so I like the move there to give Benner the start.
Yeah, you're going with the guy with a little more experience there, and I do think that Aiden Hill will likely get a game, and then it'll be maybe between the two of them. I don't think Sam Montembeault sees the net unless something happens with one of the two. But I do think that your best option will be to kind of see which of the two plays better in front of this defense. Now, like Binnington's not playing against playing with a really good St. Louis team, so sometimes the numbers can be skewed a little bit. But I think really you give him the first game. If it doesn't really go so well for him, then you can go to Aiden Hill for the next one. And that's where you eventually get to the question mark.
I will say, since December 4th, when the team was announced, of the, we'll say 6 or 7 goalies that were in contention for the 3 goaltender positions spots for Team Canada, since December, or this on the season, sorry, Jordan Binnington does have the worst goal save above expected per 60 minutes, ranking 38th in the NHL. Just take a lucky guess who's first in the NHL in goal save above expected per 60. Just a lucky guess.
Maybe the guy that's left at home right now in Logan Thompson.
It would be Logan Thompson. Yeah, number 1 in the NHL and goals saved above expected per 60 minutes. Number 1 in the NHL. Among all goalies with 10 or more starts, I guess was the qualifier there. Hellebuck second behind Logan Thompson. Go ahead.
By the way, I was just looking up the lineups because my brain was telling me you got to figure this out. Crosby, Stahl, Iginla was what it ended up being. It's
Stahl. Yeah, Eric Stahl was on that line. Although, is that what it was for the gold medal game?
That was for the gold medal game. It started the tournament with Crosby, Nash, Bergeron.
Yeah, okay. I remember Rick Nash being on the line. It kind of got moved around a bit. Yeah, that's correct. And then I think it was 4-on-4 in overtime, wasn't it? And so Stahl wasn't on the ice. It was Crosby and Iggy at that point in OT. Anyway, we'll see if there's another golden moment for Crosby or anyone else in Canada, but they got to start by winning tonight against the Sweden team. Let's come back and take a look at the Swedish lineup and who's going to be starting in goal and who'll be playing alongside Mr. William Nylander. That's all coming up next here on the Locked On Leafs podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Factor. Looking to optimize your nutrition this year? Factor makes eating well easy with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved meals that are fresh, never frozen, and ready to eat and heat in just 2 minutes. With 40 options across 8 dietary preferences every week, you could customize your meals to fit your lifestyle, whether it's Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, or Keto. Plus, Factor even offers wholesome smoothies, breakfast, and grab-and-go snacks to keep you fueled all day long. I love how Factor takes the stress out of meal prepping. I've recently tried it, went with the Protein Plus meals, and they were packed with flavor, and they kept me full throughout the day. The convenience is unbeatable. No prep, no mess, just great food in minutes. Eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/LockedOnNHL 50 off. And if you use the code LockedOnNHL 50 off to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code LockedOnNHL 50 off at factormeals.com/LockedOnNHL 50 off to get 50% and free shipping off your first box. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DeStefano, Dave Morsuti with you as we are each and every weekday, Monday through Friday, even through the Four Nations. We're not taking time off. Dave and I aren't going to Cabo. We're here. We're going to continue to cover the tournament and also cover whatever Leafs news comes of it, such as tonight's opening matchup between Canada and Sweden, also known as the Nylander versus Marner matchup to kick things off. And Nylander and Team Sweden, they're going to be in tough tonight against the Canadians.
First off, David really does wish he was in Cabo with this snowstorm coming to Toronto.
I do wish I was in Cabo. I'm just not in Cabo.
Yeah, we're just
I definitely would prefer to be there, but we got to work. We got to work, Dave.
Yeah, I'm going to be bunkered in my basement watching this game and then taking the intermission breaks to go and shovel outside. So can't get any more Canadian than that, in my opinion, watching this game tonight. And I'm looking forward to it. I had a friend of mine reach out to me. He's like, yeah, I don't know if I'm even really going to watch any of the games. Like, stop lying. Stop lying to yourself. You got no other hockey to watch.
Yeah.
Where are you going to get your hockey fix? And this is like, at least this will be somewhat intriguing because you get to see the best on best.
I never realized actually kind of how genius the timing is for this tournament. Think about it. It's right after the Super Bowl, so there's no football. People are done with football now, right? Yep. Baseball is yet to start. Pitchers and catchers are reporting tomorrow, I think, but there's no spring training, so there's nothing really going on. There's no games to watch there. There's no NHL. You've got the NBA, but they're going on hiatus pretty soon for a week to do their NBA All-Star. So that's gonna, leave a couple of days for people to be looking for something to watch. This is a perfect placement in the schedule, on the sporting schedule for the NHL to do this. I do think they deserve some recognition for that.
Absolutely. Like they definitely planned it to be like this. I mean, if you ever watch when they do the NHL, this is the time of the year to get it in. You don't want to compete with the Super Bowl because no one can compete with the Super Bowl. The NBA at this point of the year, some of the players are already planning their trips to Cabo and getting ready for the All-Star break. So it's after the NBA trade deadline too. So it's not that stuff you got to go through. So it really is the perfect time on the February sports calendar. This is the time you go and put a tournament like this. And this is also the time of year where there's a little bit of fatigue for the regular season, right? And players are starting to get hurt. Players are they're feeling it. So it comes at a perfect time for not only the fans, but also for the players that, other than the top players in the league, but they'll get some time off at some point.
Yeah, I think there's still 4 or 5 days bookending the tournament where they will have an opportunity to get a couple days in, and they'll be okay. But you look at it, it's going to be a really, really fun tournament. It all kicks off tonight, Canada, Sweden. We took a look at Canada's team. Now let's take a look at Team Sweden for those who haven't quite seen what that team looks like. If you want the full preview of the tournament, Dave and I did go through each team, each roster yesterday on the podcast. So just go back and look at yesterday's show for a full preview. But we'll break down Sweden's roster and the team that they'll be fielding or icing tonight against the Canadians. You've got Philip Forsberg with Elias Pettersson and Adrian Kempe on the second line. We're looking at Bill Nylander with Mika Zibanejad and Ricard Raquel on the third line, and this is where it starts to drop off a little bit. Jesper Bratt, Joel Eriksson Ek, and Lucas Raymond. And then the fourth line is a combination of Victor Arvidsson, Elias Lindholm, and Gustav Nyquist. And let's just quickly look at the blue line before we can kind of give our final thoughts on the team. Victor Hedman and Jonas Brodin as the top pair. Your second pair for Team Sweden, Matthias Ekholm and Erik Karlsson. And the third pair, you're looking at Rasmus Dahlin and Gustav Forsling. So pretty solid defensive groupings, I would say there. The forward group, it kind of drops off a little bit once you get to the fourth line, or at least it's more role players at that point with an Arvidsson and a Nyquist. And then goaltending wise, I believe Linus Ullmark is getting the start. Was that announced today?
They did not announce their goalie for for game one. They are keeping it under wraps a little bit. Canada's I know we're going with Binnington.
I believe Ullmark is most likely
he's probably
him or Gustafsson. One of those two will get the start. We know it's going to be either him or Philip Gustafsson who will end up getting the start for Team Sweden. But it's look. I think Sweden will give Canada a little bit of troubles, but ultimately I do expect for the Canadians to overpower this team and win this game pretty handily, Dave.
I think so. When you look at the forward matchup, the Canada's got a pretty good favorable matchup there. And even like blue line, yes, Sweden's got a pretty good blue line, and Canada matches up with it very well. And goaltending, Linus Ullmark was not playing so hot coming into this tournament. And so like some people were kind of like, oh yeah, definitely don't play Linus Ullmark. We don't want to see Linus Ullmark and what he can do against Canada. But I mean, he's still a good goaltender. Before he got hurt, he was playing quite well for the Senators. But yeah, I think that's probably the only thing that's going to be the biggest question mark for Sweden is do they decide to go with Ullmark, or do they think that Gustafsson will be fine to go into that game? So
neither of them have played particularly well. Like you look at Gustafsson since the turn of the calendar, right? Since January 1st, it's got an .896 save percentage and a .348 goals against average with the Minnesota Wild. So he really has not played very well at all for himself. So
I had a good show. I was looking at the stats today for during work, and I was looking up Gustafsson's stats, and I accidentally put down Jonas Gustafsson. I was like, man, my brain went there. I don't know why.
Yeah, but a little different, little different, I would say, for him.
Gustafsson has had a good record with Sweden internationally, though, I will say. Like, that's where he got his name as like a top goaltender, was during his time with Sweden, and especially at the World Juniors.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe this will give a little bit of a bump for him. But yeah, I think Gustafsson has had the better year, but Linus Ullmark has a bit more cachet.
Yeah, maybe a little more of a pedigree. He's got that pedigree, right? He's got a Vezina, right?
Yeah, exactly.
President's Trophy winning goaltender. We'll see who Sweden ends up rolling with. Either way, it's going to be difficult to stop Canada from scoring goals. The betting numbers, if you look over on FanDuel, proud sponsor of the Locked On Network, the official sports book of the Locked On Leafs podcast and every other podcast on the network, they've got Canada favored at -235 on the money line. You can get at +112 on the spread, which I kind of like, actually. I think Canada can win this game by 2 or more goals. You can get that at +112 with an over-under set at 5.5. Which, again, I kind of expect that number to go over with the amount of firepower that we could see here for Canada against a couple of struggling goaltenders. So those are a couple plays that I like tonight. You can make a couple more over on FanDuel. All right, so that is that's the game. It'll all start tonight, 8 p.m. 8 p.m. Everything gets going. It's out in Montreal, so it should be a ruckus crowd out there. Should be a really fun game. I'm excited, and we'll come back tomorrow after the game, and we'll recap it and see how the Marner versus Nylander Bowl went and how those two both fared. Do we see any type of rough stuff from them, you think?
I would like to see even just a playful little.
Did you actually? You know what? I was going to ask a question, but I'm going to leave it for cosign, no sign. So why don't we take a break? We'll come back, and I'll ask my follow-up on the other side. So we got cosign, no sign coming up next here on the Locked On Leafs podcast.
Today's edition of the Locked On Leafs podcast is also brought to you by Wonderful Pistachios. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. And I like all the different flavors that they have. And they're also got those small packages. If you're on a road trip, they're perfect to open and perfect to snack on. You get that quick protein boost. And if you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, the in-shell options are always a classic. Get snackin and crackin with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more.
Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DeStefano, Dave Morisuti with you as always, each and every day, bringing you brand new podcasts centered around your Toronto Maple Leafs for free and available wherever you get your podcasts and also up on YouTube. We got the Four Nations face-off kicking off tonight in Montreal, Canada versus Sweden. To start things off, we got Mitch Marner and William Nylander in action. And I want to play a little cosine, no sign here, Dave. Some Four Nations edition of cosine, no sign, but I'll keep it close to home. I was going to ask you a follow-up, but I'll put it in the form of a cosine, no sign. It's concerning that there are reports out there that none of the Maple Leafs teammates have been in communication with each other all week at the Four Nations face-off. Cosine, no sign. Is that a concern?
No sign. You know what? This is the time allegiances get split apart.
I've seen some players though, like they're canoodling, they're meeting up, they're having chats, having conversations with their buddies on the team. Are these guys not buddies?
If I know Willie, he ain't spilling any trade secrets to Marner or Matthews.
That's still trade secrets, but it's like, hey, want to grab a coffee? You want to go watch the Super Bowl? Like, there's a lot going on that they could have hung out.
Let the hey, if I'm Canada, I probably want Mitch Marner spending some time with Connor McDavid. If you're the Leafs, maybe you want Connor McDavid spend a little time with Mitch Marner. I'm just saying, you know, there ain't no other Oilers players there to give Connor McDavid some friendly banter with, right? So Mitch Marner could just like, I got you, man. I would never abandon you like your Oilers guys have abandoned you. Bouchard, Hyman couldn't even make it on the team to be there to support you.
Cosine, no sign. If the Crosby-McKinnon duo is electric as we think it could be, the buzz surrounding Crosby to Colorado will continue to grow rampant.
Oh, it's disgustingly bad now, and I think it's going to get that much worse. So co-sign on that one.
Yeah, that's going to be a big
Paul Bissonnette. Biz is the worst culprit of them all because the day that Rantanen got traded
is the worst culprit of them all.
He was ready to call Crosby to Colorado right that night. He was calling for it. I'm like, stop it. Stop it.
Well, he's calling for it because I think it was Sarah Volley put something out saying, hearing from a source that this trade wasn't the biggest move tabled this week for the Avalanche, and was kind of hinting at a possible Crosby thing, and that quickly got squashed.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's going to be a lot of hoopla around that, obviously, and especially if it looks good. It's like, hey, this could be a thing if you want it to be, Sid. It could be a thing. I guarantee you it'll probably get loud. All right, hit me with one.
William Nylander will be far and away Sweden's top player in the Four Nations.
Ooh, Sweden's top player. Like, so here's the thing. Like, it's top forward. Are we gonna go top forward?
I'll go top forward to make it easier on you.
Yeah, because like you could see Victor Hedman being the best player, but how do you quantify it? You know what I mean? Yeah. You're not gonna look at his points and say that. No. So we'll go top forward, and I'm gonna co-sign it. I think he is the best forward right now for Team Sweden. I especially look at the way he's playing. The guy's got 33 goals this season. Like, no one's close to that. He's second in the NHL in goals, right behind Leon. He is the leading goal scorer at the tournament because Leon's not there. No one at the tournament has scored more goals this season than William Nylander. So yeah, I think absolutely. And again, like we talked about earlier, that guy puts on the crowns. He turns into Eric Lindros. It's insane. So yeah, I think that he's going to be the best player for Sweden, the most productive player for Sweden. There's a chance he could end up being the best Maple Leaf at the tournament. There's a chance. There's a chance.
See, initially that was going to be my co-sign, no sign. That Nylander would be the most productive Leaf at the Four Nations, but I'm like, I just wanted to keep it to Sweden because let's talk a little more about Sweden going into this game.
Yeah. All right. Next one for you. Canada is kicking themselves for the goaltending decisions made back in December.
I'm gonna say I think Canada themselves no sign. I don't think they are kicking themselves because they had a chance. They had every opportunity to say, you know what, we're gonna do the right thing. They didn't. Don Sweeney, how can we trust this guy considering what he has done to Boston right now with their goaltending situation too? Clearly the man doesn't know goaltending, so I'm gonna say no sign.
Wow. You're going to no sign that? Really? So if they could repick the team today, you think they go with the same three
I
guys?
think so. I think they're that stubborn about it.
Wow. That's absurd. That's an absurd comment, Mr. Morisuti, and I love it. I love the fact that you're going heavy on that one and you're just completely throwing Donnie Sweeney under the bus there, and I'm for it. I think they for sure though got to be kicking themselves because I went and I looked at the splits, right? Of the three goaltenders that are coming to Canada, and what you could argue are the three runner-ups that missed out on coming to Canada, or getting named to Team Canada. And legitimately, the B team, the runner-up squad, have been significantly better than the three guys that are suiting up for Canada at this tournament. You look at Sam Montembeault, since being selected on December 4th, he's got an 11-11-1 record and an 893 save percentage and a 300 goals against. And on the season, he's 28th in the league in goals saved above expectation per 60 minutes. Binnington, 894 save percentage with a 290 goals against. Aiden Hill, a 900 save percentage and a 261 goals against. Then you look at the guys who aren't on the team that have been fantastic, giving the middle finger to Doug Armstrong and Don Sweeney, saying, hey, you should have picked us. Logan Thompson, 14-1-3 with a 927 save percentage and a 202 goals against, with the number one goals saved above expectation in the NHL this season since December 4th, the day that he was left off of Team Canada. Mackenzie Blackwood, 922 save percentage.
Mm-hmm.
Darcy Kemper has a 927 save percentage, a 12-4-3 record, and a 195 goals against average since being left off Team Canada on December 4th. Heck, Marc-Andre Fleury has better numbers than all three of the starters since December 4th. He's 6-6 with a 913 save percentage and a 253 goals against. Marc-Andre Fleury has better numbers than Montembeault, Binnington, and Aiden Hill since selected to the roster on December 4th. It's insane how much they absolutely bungled the goaltending selection. Everyone said that Thompson was an absolute miss at the time, and now you're looking, Blackwood was a miss. Blackwood is a better goaltender, granted. His numbers have come since being traded to Colorado, playing in front of a much better team. But if you're an evaluator, you got to know that, because guess what Team Canada is? A super team with a hell of a group in front of them. So if you know that the technical work is there, and if there's good structure in front, he can make the saves and he can give you 922 goaltending. As an evaluator, you got to know that. And I think they really screwed the pooch here, because there's 4 or 5 players. Stuart Skinner has better numbers than the 3 guys who are out there. Cam Talbot has better numbers than the 3 guys who are suiting up there out in Montreal this week. I'm telling you, they absolutely bungled the goaltending, and the better Canadians in net are not at that tournament. They're out in Cabo, and they're not celebrating, and it's unfortunate, and I hope that goaltending is not the reason why Canada doesn't come away with the trophy, because, man, there's a lot of controversy surrounding those selections.
There is. That's why I totally agree. They made the wrong choices, but we know these evaluators, they never second guess themselves until after the tournament's done, and maybe if something goes wrong, then they might admit it, but they probably won't, because they got that much of an ego.
Like, let me just show you it as a chart. So I think if I show it as a chart, it'll maybe look a little hold on, how can I do this here? Let me present it, and we'll share the screen. And I think it just looks a little different if I show it this way. Yeah. So if you just look at that, right? Just look at those numbers. These are the 3 players that are on Team Canada currently compared to the 4 who missed out. Like, it's night and day, those numbers. Like, if I would have told you which grouping do you think Canada picked to represent themselves at the tournament, you're definitely going to go with that bottom quartet over that top 3, no?
1,000%.
Oh,
I still remain flabbergasted that Sam Montembeault made this team.
so do I. And I don't know if it was like because they're going to be playing in Montreal and they were like, he knows the building that could help, the Montreal.
Only playing in
faithful
Montreal
there.
a couple times, and you go to Boston.
But yeah, you're right. I just saying that could have been the reason. I really do not know. But yeah, to me, they totally bungled that entire situation. There's no chance, no shot that that Logan Thompson, at the very least, shouldn't be there. I'm about to go on a low. I was looking obviously I was looking into the numbers, dude. Logan Thompson deserves some more love for the Vezina, and I'm not even capping. Like, I get Connor Hellebuck seems like the runaway favorite, but you look at Thompson's numbers.
I have.
And if Thompson's also being, or if Hellebuck's being included in a lot of heart conversations now, Logan Thompson should be right there also.
Oh, yeah.
Again, when you're first in the NHL in goals saved above expectation, that means that your team's not playing great defensively and you're bailing them out more than any other goaltender is in the NHL.
And he got a nice payday too, thankfully. Like, the Capitals recognized it and is like, here's your money.
Let's lock him up.
Yeah, he secured himself nicely financially with this season he's having, that's for sure.
Yeah,
I'm not these numbers in Vegas too. I understand that injuries played a bit of a bit in that time, but I was shocked when that trade went through. I said all the Capitals are going to work out so well with this trade.
Yep, and it's worked out swimmingly. Both Thompson and Lingard's been pretty good for them too as a 1B. So together they've been great, but neither making Team Canada at the 4 Nations. So at least Logan Thompson will get to enjoy himself in Cabo this week at the very least. All right, buddy. Anything else you want to share before we I
want to get your thoughts because I'm looking at FanDuel right now.
Yeah.
Most tournament goals. Austin Matthews currently just a slight favorite at plus 1,000 to lead the tournament in goals. That includes both the round robin and the finals. His biggest competition, Sam Reinhart, plus 1,100, and Nathan MacKinnon at plus 1,100. Who would you put your money on if you're laying down a bet on FanDuel today?
Probably Matthews. I think it'd be Matthews because I think the Americans have a good shot to win, which means they'll probably play the most games. And Reinhart, yeah, he's playing with Marner and McDavid, but like those guys, like McDavid could score too, right? I think I'll go with Austin Matthews though. I think that's the bet that I'd make the favorite.
I do think McKinnon's going to be his biggest competitor because I do think that McKinnon can absolutely.
Yeah, I think Willie could be a competitor, man. Like Willie,
I'm actually looking. There? He is plus 2,600. He is so far down the list. Brad Marchand has better odds to have the most goals in this tournament than William Nylander at plus 2,200.
Well, there's value in William Nylander's market right now. Absolute value. Yeah. All right, buddy. We'll see how it all plays out tonight. Should be fun. 8 o'clock puck drop. It's on Sportsnet, right? I believe it's a Sportsnet product. Enjoy the game. That'll do it for us here today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all platforms and receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morrisudi and follow the show as well at Locked On Leafs. We'll be back with another episode for you guys tomorrow to recap Canada and Sweden and get into all things Leafs as well on tomorrow's show. But until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.